Hi, this is Joe again with another review. And for this video, we'll be discussing the 1990 psychological thriller called Eternal Affairs. It stars Richard Gere, Andy Garcia, Nancy Travis, and Lloyd Metcalf. Plus, one of the first early roles of Billy Baldwin. Now, of course, this movie is a psychological thriller that came out, like I said at the top, it came out in 1990. And for Richard Gere, 1990 was a big year for him because this movie, Eternal Affairs, came out first early in the year, like March or April, and then of course about a couple months later, a little movie called Pretty Woman came out and became even a bigger hit than Eternal Affairs. So 1990 was a pretty much like a comeback year for Richard Gere. And of course, Richard Gere plays the villain in this thing. Well, I'm getting a little ahead of myself. For this movie, it's actually from the point of view of Andy Garcia's character. But it plays a police officer who just joined the Internal Affairs Division, or IAD, and is supposed to investigate an incident that's shown in the very beginning of the film, that involving the William Baldwin character named I just watched this movie like Van Sloan, and it had those kind of like a crazy shooting and something like that. And Andy Garcia was pointing at Noe Metcalf. Figures out, found out that the William Baldwin character actually is a drug addict, is a had a history of getting into anger fits with his wife. And one particular scene where he's actually hitting his wife, the William Baldwin was actually hitting his wife at one point, and that type of stuff. And then the Andy Garcia character actually has some suspicions of Richard Gere, that what he's telling them doesn't ring the truth. He was like suspicious of him. For the most part, it's that Richard Gere's going to be like this veteran police officer who's been on the force for about like 15 years, almost 20 years on the force, and he's still a patrolman, still on the street. And then Garcia asks his boss, said, how come this guy is still on the street? How come he's never been promoted? Because you say he has, the record that you say he has, how come the guy has never been promoted? And they give him some half-assed. He wanted to stay on the street. And they said, okay, let me check what the hell he's doing out on the street. And then the more Andy Garcia checks it out, the more he finds out that Richard Gere is actually the one pulling the strings of William Baldwin and pulling the strings throughout pretty much the whole film. And he found out that Richard Gere's character was married about 4 or 5 times, had about like 9 kids, or 8 kids and one on the way, and he's found out that he's doing all these side jobs. One of the side jobs working security, and all these other cops working security at his art gallery. It still happens that Andy Garcia's wife works in his art gallery. So there's a whole lot of shady stuff that's going on. And then eventually there's one particular part where Andy Garcia's wife is played by Nancy Travis. And she's just coming off of doing the 3 Men and a Baby movies. And she was hot and she was sexy in this movie. And of course Nancy Travis now is on the Tim Allen show, Last Man Standing. And even though I think she's like over 60 now, she still looks good. For her age, this movie came out like 25 years ago. She was like about 35 years old and she was smoking hot. In this movie, there's one particular scene where she's actually in the shower, and then you go see what walks in on her. And well, in that movie, you really don't see anything, but she was hot in this movie. Like I said earlier, right now I got off track a little bit. The more that Andy Garcia checks on Richard Gere record, particularly they still a patrolman, He never made sergeant. He never made lieutenant. He never made captain. He never made detective. Uh, he's still out running around the streets. And of course, there's one other incident where another police officer, you might, if you happen to be fans of the television show Third Watch, you recognize this guy. Michael Beach plays another police officer who busted a prostitute, a hooker, and Richard Gere says, "Oh, don't bust her. She's my informant, confidential informant." They said, "Oh, come on." This was a clean bust, and busting her. And then actually, they got into a fight over it, and they found out that this hooker was not an informant of Richard Gere's. He just made it up because he didn't want to get busted because he was banging. Richard Gere was banging his prostitute. Uh, of course, you find out you didn't actually see it, but it's like implied that he was having sex with his prostitute. Um, like I said throughout the film, I mean, Richard Gere is like master manipulator in this film, throughout the whole film. And that's like one of the few times that Richard Gere actually plays a villain, and he did a pretty damn good job playing the villain in this film. And of course, later on when he finds out that Andy Garcia is investigating him, then he starts playing the mind games with Andy Garcia, saying there's one particular sequence where he was having dinner or lunch with Andy Garcia's, the Nancy Travis's character, who was probably the Andy Garcia's wife. So Andy Garcia thinks that she was having an affair with him. He said, "Oh, you fucking peck." I mean, there was a line in the movie. "Are you screwing him? Are you fucking him?" I said, "No, I'm not fucking him." And they're having this, this fight going on. Excuse me for for the language. For those of you who watch this video gets offended by the language in this film, and it is pretty gruesome language. Of course, going back to the Ren Baldwin storyline that actually kicks off this film. Richard Gere does set up Ray Baldwin's character to be killed by his thug. And now Andy Garcia thinks that, hey, maybe Officer Peck, the Richard Gere character, set this whole thing up. So he ends up tracking down the shooter, but the shooter ends up getting killed by the SWAT team. And Andy Garcia is so ticked off about that because, hey, I need this guy to prove that maybe he was paid off to set up, the Ray Baldwin character. And as he was dying, the shooter of the Ray Baldwin character does admit that, hey, I got paid off by Peck. He paid me off to kill his partner. And Ray Baldwin was also supposed to be Richard Gere's partner as well. And then, of course, there's more of the mind games that's going on in this film. Like I said earlier, they had a scene where Richard Gere is having lunch with Andy Garcia, or with Andy Travis's character. Said, "Hey, what are you doing having lunch with my wife? Why are you screwing or you're spanking my wife? This type of stuff." And it was a tick for tack thing, where Richard Gere is making all these sexual overtures about his wife, and Andy Garcia hits him. And another scene where, after when Richard Gere finds out that he's being investigated, that Richard Gere attacks Andy Garcia in an elevator. And of course, we all know how this movie is going to end with the killer, with Richard Gere being killed. And I'm giving away, spoiler, that Richard Gere gets killed at the end of the movie. Because there was a scene where Andy Garcia's partner, Larry Metcalf, gets killed. And of course, there's always lesbian insult in this film. Calling her a dyke. She's a dyke. Because Andy Garcia tells his wife, early on in the movie, "Oh, I have a woman partner." And he goes, "Oh, is she pretty?" He said, "Well, you don't have to worry about her because she's a dyke." They have that line, and then later on in the film, when spoiler, Laurie Metcalf's character gets shot towards the end of the movie, and Richard Gere set up the whole thing, shot her. And Richard Gere says to Andy Garcia, "I'm sorry about the dyke." They use that line more than a couple of times in this movie, and naturally, of course, if you have being homosexual or a lesbian, that's what you're going to get out there who happens to be watching this video. You're going to get offended by those lines. That's if you've never seen that. If you've never seen Internal Affairs, you're going to be insulted by hearing the word dyke in this movie. So I have to put that warning out there. Not only just the regular, ordinary cursing, but also the anti-gay or anti-lesbian rhetoric. There's only they didn't use the F word, the fag word. They didn't say fag, but they used dyke because it was lesbian. So I want to warn you, any lesbians out there who haven't watched this video who have never seen the movie Internal Affairs, I have to warn you, they do use that line in that film. I have to warn you out there. But in terms of the film itself, it is a very, very good and undebated psychological thriller, and it did get good write-ups at the time. I think Cisco and Ebert gave it 2 thumbs up. But unfortunately, I think it's like a lot of the Richard Gere movies have fallen by the wayside. I mean, they don't stand up to the test of time. A lot of them, like some maybe An Officer and a Gentleman, American Gigolo, Pretty Woman, and I'm trying to think of more recent Richard Gere film he did, but a lot of them has fallen to the wayside. But fortunately, this one, it's definitely one of the better Richard Gere films, and between An Officer and a Gentleman and Internal Affairs, Richard Gere hasn't done all that many great films between those two movies. And then this movie came out, and then of course he revitalized his career. Has been working pretty steadily ever since. Of course, the last really good movie he had was he did Chicago. And he should have won an Oscar for that, in my opinion. But for that role. But in terms of Internal Affairs, he was damn good in this movie. And so was Andy. And this was like one of the last really good films that Andy Garcia did. And his career pretty much died. Died in this movie. I don't know what happened to Andy Garcia's career, but it's a shame that this movie is one of the few good movies he has done. It's also, I think, one of the last films that Nancy Travis did. I think she did another one with Mike Myers, So I Married an Axe Murderer, a comedy. But after that, she hasn't really done one of many movies. And of course, actually, I mentioned earlier, she's on the Tim Allen show now, Last Man Standing. But that's about it. I haven't seen Nancy Travis on the many movies, to tell you the truth. Except for the Three Man and Baby movies, this one, and I think coming before. It's a shame because at that time in the late 80s and early 90s, Nancy Travis was stunning to look at. But unfortunately, like I said earlier, for some reason she hasn't on the many movies, as far as I know, except for the 4 I mentioned. But this movie is very, very good, a great psychological thriller. I do recommend this movie, just if you've never seen it. So this is my review of Internal Affairs. Please click on the video, please rate it, please subscribe to my channel, and please forward this video to your Facebook pages, and also you can check out some of my older videos on rowdyc.com. That's ROWDY, the letter C.com. You can check out some of my older videos there, as well as on my YouTube channel. And you can also check out the Rowdy C content with TV trash, with the wrestling mark and the P.O. Pizza guy, and some of the other characters that Christy Moore has done over the last 5 years or so. He's done a great job on that site, and we have an agreement. He used to post some of my videos on there, and he has posted some. But not all of them. They have over 300 videos, so it's going to take him a while to post every single one. But he has posted some of my videos, and he does a great job. He's my favorite reviewer on YouTube, other than the Cinephiles. He's my favorite TV reviewer, TV critic. Thanks for watching. Check out my videos on rowdyc.com as well as on my YouTube channel. Thanks for watching. Catch you next time.